28 tips and tricks to help you improve on Newcastle in Season 13. I played Newcastle for over 24 hours and 500 kills to secure these tips. On the journey to getting 500 kills on every legend in Season 13 to make better guides. Come drop by my stream and see what legend we're on right now. While rezzing with this passive, you can actually turn your shield in a circle looking for oncoming enemies. On top of that, drag your teammates towards death boxes, that way they can get a fast shield swap instead of having to run over to it. When rezzing, you only have to tap the interact button, don't have to hold it. On top of that, if you tap it again, you can actually cancel the res early. You can use this for some cheeky outplays when you notice that your enemy is either reloading after shooting the shield or they turn their backs towards you. Don't be afraid to get a quick res during mid-fight. If your teammate calls out that they got a lot of damage or you yourself know you put out damage to the enemy team, immediately start to res without hesitation, and then start dragging your teammate to a comfortable situation or around a corner to where you can outplay the enemy. You can also pull yourself into a corner to have your back covered. The golden knockdown and backpack should always go to Newcastle. The golden knockdown takes the same amount of damage as the purple one, but the golden backpack is huge when it comes to his ultimate, passive, and tactical, and getting your teammates reset quickly. On top of that, if you have both the golden items and you go down and you self-res, the golden backpack will work on yourself when you get back up. If you come to the firing range with the interact prompt style on default, you can actually see how much damage each of these knockdown shields can take whenever it's on his revive shield. His passive is not the same as Lifeline's old res. Your knockdown shield is directly connected to the shield that comes up on your passive. Reference the values from the previous tip. On top of that, if it breaks during a fight and you let go of the res and then begin to res again, it will not regen the shield. You're not able to open doors while you're rezzing a teammate, so make sure that you open doors before you start rezzing them if you're going to have to go through them. On top of that, if you start to res a teammate who's down blocking a door, it will pull them away from the door and allow enemies to come through. So make sure if you res them on a door, you immediately push them up against the door again to block the door. You cannot continue to res on an Octane jump pad, Horizon gravity lift, or the gravity cannons on Storm Point. It'll simply kick you off the res. And the gravity lifts can get a little bit wonky, and if you try to do this, it doesn't always launch your teammate the full distance. If this happens, simply use your ultimate to immediately teleport down to them. His tactical lasts for 20 seconds and has a cooldown of 15 seconds. Make sure you're using it as often as possible, and don't be afraid to pop a heal from behind it, as you'll see the enemy coming. Also, the drone will start buzzing and sparking when there's about 2 to 3 seconds left on your shield. So if you see that happening, be prepared to ditch it and go to cover, or get ready to take a shot on the enemy. His tactical shield has about 350 total health, which is actually pretty easy to team fire, so keep this in consideration on your own shields and the enemy ones. Don't be afraid to shoot them. They're really not that hard to break through. Sheila is a huge counter to it. On top of that, really any weapon with over 350 damage per magazine, such as the flatline or any of the LMGs. His tactical has a throw distance of about 20 meters. If you look at the indicator, if you're walking forward, this actually increases the distance that you can throw it. This doesn't seem like a big deal, but don't be afraid to throw this ahead of teammates that are pushing ahead of you while you heal, or trying to save them in a bad situation. You can actually make his drone turn by pinging in a different direction while being close to the drone like this. This can be helpful for taking away cover from an enemy who's using the drone against you. If you want to turn it around completely, run on one side of the shield and then ping the opposite direction. Treat his shield like a personal Gibraltar bubble. Be patient with your shots and carry at least one poking weapon such as the wingman or the shotgun, as both these weapons have extremely good strafe speed for peeking in and out, and can poke out high amounts of damage if the enemy has some kind of automatic weapon. When rezzing a down teammate, combine his passive and his tactical to cover multiple angles while rezzing a teammate. You can throw it one direction and then turn around and use the passive shield to block the other. I don't know how useful this is, but you can plant his shield on the front of a trident. However, it's not as effective as the Gibby bubble, as it only covers the one direction, kind of like a windshield. Play extremely carefully around Maggie's, as her tactical drill is an extremely strong counter to your shield. So make sure you always have cover to retreat to if you see that there's an enemy Maggie on the team. Don't use your tactical to push out in the open, at least against Maggie. In most situations, it's actually really good to use to push across open fields. I mentioned how fast his tactical refresh is, so make sure you're using it any opportunity that you can. One really underrated use for it is using it to cover while you're looting. His tactical is a great counter for grenades. If you see a grenade icon, quickly throw it down and you and your team won't take any damage. On top of that, always carry arc stars. Say I'm fighting an enemy on my own shield right here, I'll throw an arc star at the base of it and then back my shield up to where the enemy on the other side will either take damage or they'll be forced to make a play on my shield to where my shotgun or wingman is ready. You can actually destroy individual parts of your own wall with just one button. It's going to be whatever button your character utility action is bound to. One really good use for his ultimate is blocking doors. But on top of that, you can combine this and the previous tip of destroying your own wall to create a sneaky entrance once you think that the enemy may have turned their back. If they're on the door blocking it, this is going to blow them backwards and make them panic. If you then manually destroy it and walk through with your weapon ready, you could make some insane plays. His ultimate can go up to 35 meters on his own or up to 70 on a teammate. This is huge as it allows Newcastle to be one of the most aggressive support characters, playing off angles and overextending slightly, being able to use the ultimate at any time to get back to a hurt enemy, or if you get pushed or in trouble, using it on your teammate as an anchor to pull yourself to safety. When you first use his ultimate, it's going to have a static charge on it that's going to last approximately 30 seconds. This electrical charge not only slows but damages enemies. So if you see a damage counter come up on an enemy that you're fighting, take advantage of that slowdown and immediately peek them. I can speak from experience, especially if they're on M&K, it's really hard to fight when you're stunned. On friendly shields, the electrical charge will be blue, but on enemy castles, it's going to be red. If it's an enemy wall, you can break the wall by punching it twice. Just make sure the electrical charge is gone, as you will still get stunned just for punching it. This is a huge deal, as this wall typically has about 750 health, and 2 punches do nowhere near that much damage on the person. When you're in mid-air with his ultimate, you can actually turn it around. This is really useful for if an enemy team is chasing you and you want to immediately turn around and start firing back at them. Or if you jump onto a down teammate, make sure you understand where the enemy is at or ask your teammate where they are. That way you can turn towards them and have a safe place to res. His ultimate can be amazing for taking immediate and aggressive height. It'll also knock back the enemies. It can also be used directly above you as long as you just step a few steps backwards. When you use your ultimate, it's going to return you to whatever state you were in when you used it. What I mean by this is if you have your weapon holstered or you have your weapon out, it's going to return to that exact same state whenever the ultimate lands. So make sure before you use his ultimate, pop out your weapon and then go into the ultimate. That way when you land, your weapon immediately comes up. This is super important because if you're running around with your weapon holstered and then you use his ultimate, not only are you going to get a quick stun whenever you land, but it's not going to pull out your weapon immediately, then you have to pull out your weapon. This can be a big deal because even if it pushes your enemies back when you land, if your team isn't there to support you, they're going to aggress you very quickly, especially if they have no cover to retreat to. Whether you're with a friend or a random, make sure you're keeping an eye on your teammate's health. If they're in a bad situation, getting low or get downed, don't be afraid to immediately pop your ult on them to knock back thirsting enemies, or if the enemies are at a distance, pulling off a quick res. This is where the gold backpack comes in clutch, as it's going to be an immediate reset for your teammate coming back with 50% health and shield. His ultimate can actually be used to stop an ulting Valkyrie. The key is you have to land it right on top of her before the jetpack animation starts to happen. On top of that, his ultimate is actually one of the best ways to break down a bunkered down team, as the ultimate itself destroys any other Legends abilities, including other Newcastles, Caustics, Watsons, or even Rampart walls. This was one of my favorite ways to use his ultimate, as there's nothing worse than going against a Watson, Caustic, or a Rampart that's bunkered down. They will not see this coming at all and have no clue what happened to their abilities. While I don't think he replaces Gibraltar, I do put him in the top tier of Legends, especially when you're able to get your hands on a golden backpack. By far, one of my favorite ways to play Newcastle was duos with a teammate that I know could hold their own. This will allow me to play off angles and be aggressive, and then anchor back to them if either of us got into trouble with my ultimate. And on top of that, finding fast and unique ways to use his passive shield during the middle of a fight. It can be really entertaining to see how the enemy reacts when you start rezzing right in front of them. Hopefully you guys are enjoying Newcastle, and if I missed any tips, make sure you comment them down below, and if this video helped you out, make sure you drop a like. I'll see you next time.